Hello everyone, welcome. My name is MJ Pestridge. Welcome to another P3D videos and welcome to the directory of P3D. As I say, my name's Adam and I'm going to be taking you step by step through the purchase, through the installation, through the setup of P3D here. So if you've watched the first episode, you kind of know what you're getting into. Before you continue watching this episode, there is a link down below to a video that I did about how to set up your PC to be a FLIGHTSIM beast. It shows you how to debloat Windows, get rid of all those processes on there that are really going to slow your machine down, how to kill the indexer, which basically, you know, logs every action you do to every file location you place it, remembers that, so when you use the search at the bottom here to search for anything, it finds it quicker. But actually the process of logging everything runs continually even when you're in FLIGHTSIM. That can slow you down. So in that video I show you how to stop the indexing from happening, as well as how to kill Windows Defender, because Windows Defender can get in the way of not only the installation of P3D but also the installation of its add-ons. And if any one single file is prevented from installing, it can cause a crash. So the best way to minimize or limit those crashes is remove the security suite completely from Windows 10. And I can hear you already going, I'm not removing security from my sim. I'm not getting hacked and leaving my PC open. And actually you won't be. Your router has a firewall built into it, so nothing's getting past that to your PC unless you personally invite problems in. If you go to torrent sites, if you are a hacker, then you are inviting, you know, software with viruses attached, malware built in to scan your system, you know, and rob you blind. So unless you're doing that, then there is actually no need for Windows Security Suite or Windows Defender. It literally prevents the user from killing the Windows 10 program. That's it. So if you're not an idiot, then you don't need it. And the benefit to not having all that stuff running is that processes are not scanning files 24/7 every time you try and access it. You know, if you set the permissions on your drives correctly, then you won't have any errors of permission access denied, and your software will install and run correctly. And it basically takes about 60% of the crashes away from P3D. And that's not to say P3D is rubbish software. It is kind of oldie software. I mean, let's face it, 5.3 is just come out in sort of what it says here, 1st of December. You know, I'm recording this video sort of January, so it's literally a month old, but the core engine of P3D comes from FSX, and that is very old code. So you know, there's so many files that can be mistaken for viruses. So limit all that, remove it all. It also shows you how to set up Windows correctly, which processes are safe to stop because they just simply have no benefit in flight simulation. So go watch that video first, okay? And what we're going to do is I'm going to go to, if you go onto the website here, like we will end up purchasing and setting up to install the software. But before we do, if you go here to the learning library, which it'll click you here, you can actually have a look at all the previous versions of P3D. So for anybody who doesn't know, Lockheed Martin, it basically is a military contract company for the USA government. They train and they build both aircraft and pilots, you know, and they utilize P3D in their own house, you know, in their own simulations, training pilots. And so, you know, this sim is a very secure sim. You know, it's not going anywhere. It's not going to be suddenly stopped because no one's buying it, because, you know, commercial use for P3D isn't actually a main priority or a main goal, sorry, of Lockheed Martin. You know, they utilize it to train their own pilots. You know, it is actually their official sort of sim, and there's actually loads of help on their website on how to do certain things. They even actually teach you how to bring in satellite data, just like Microsoft, into the sim. Here it's pretty astounding. But anyway, basically what had happened back in like 2010, I think it was, maybe 2009, it might even actually say at the bottom of this website. No, it doesn't. They purchased the ESP engine, the raw code basically from Microsoft, from their FSX. And you know, FSX at the time was very popular. It was probably the most popular flight sim. Hundreds of thousands of people used it. It was a 32-bit system. They took it, they expanded on the core capabilities of the Microsoft ESP, and they gave it a new user interface, a new underwater world, you know, upgraded the land class. They actually did so much in version 1, and then in course in version 2 you had DirectX 11 brought to the table, a new sim director for training scenarios, and that's really what this sim is for, training scenarios. Version 3, they gave it a facelift again. They fixed loads of bugs. They gave it, you know, dynamic lighting in version 4, turning it into a 64-bit simulation architecture, which meant it had no limitations on memory now. They also gave it more vehicles, which can also be found on the website, showing you exactly what you're going to get in version 5. What planes? I mean, you've got submarines, you've got old planes here like the Constellation, the LO-49, the Electra 10A. You've got civilian single engine aircraft here. You've also got Lockheed, their own sort of Lockheed Martin owned planes here as well. There's quite a lot. You've got helicopters, drones, you've even got a submarine that you can utilize in the sim. So this sim is a vast sim. And then, of course, we're now in version 5, and it's now the foundation for the next generation of simulation and training, bringing in the true sky and enhanced atmospherics. And in every single time they update it, there is a update here to the log. And it's worth reading. It's worth seeing what they've actually improved on. And they even talk about hot fixes, and you know, it really is a really good sim. It's really flexible, you know. So I really suggest going through the, you know, like the case studies, the advanced tutorials, the, you know, and everything, and having a look around, but especially this learning library, because it is in, like, it has so much help here to tune and really, you know, enhance your sim beyond just installing it and using it. And that reminds me, they also have on their website, if we find, it says here about system requirements. So let's have a look at these system requirements, because in all honesty, when they talk about system requirements, they kind of are talking about the base simulator. When you get P3D, you get the whole world of P3D. You get the entire Earth planet, so you can pretty much go anywhere. And in the next video, I will sort of talk a little bit more and expand on, you know, how the sim is made in terms of how you'll utilize it. But the sim is the entire world built into layers, okay? Which I'll expand on in the next video. And you can pretty much take any one of those layers and update the slice of layer to enhance it even further. You can get P3D looking like Microsoft. I've done numerous videos showing how to update the planes, the weather, the landscape to make it look like Microsoft. So it has the high fidelity planes in it as well that you can place in. So if you want to fly, you know, the 747, you're going to get a very accurate model of it from PMDG. If you want to fly a single engine Cessna, you're going to get a very good model from A2A. There are developers like FS Labs where they shine on the Airbus series, and they really do have it pretty much nailed down, almost 100%. But this is a flight simulator. This isn't a game. It takes specs in order for it to run. It takes hardware. The better the hardware you have, the less problems you have in the sim. So even their recommended specs, I don't recommend personally, because they're just talking about the default. And yes, if you've got an 8 gig card or even a 4 gig GPU, you can run the default fine. But I don't know a single person who just uses the default sim. Well, maybe except for the testers, but everybody uses add-ons. And at the end of the day, whatever your system is, you know, in terms of CPU, GPU, memory, stuff like that, this sim or anything, any sim game or any flight sim is defined by your GPU, your memory, your CPU, and what kind of hard drive you use. Is it a SSD drive or is it a HDD drive? And there is a massive difference between a HDD drive and an SSD drive, and even an M.2 drive as well. So let's have a look at their specs, shall we? Their operating system, they recommend Microsoft Windows 10. P3D has yet to be optimized for Windows 11, so I know plenty of people who have problems running it on Windows 11, so I personally recommend Windows 10. And as I said, there's a link down below to a video. If you go watch that, you can prep your PC for making sure it will be able to run. But here's a good little test to see if you can run it. Go down to the search, type in CMD, bring up a command prompt, run it as administrator, and type in sfc /scan now. Now what this does, as soon as I hit enter, we're going to check the time. It's 7:48. I'm going to hit that, and what it's doing now is it's taking a look at Windows 10, the files, the folders, the way it's made up, and it's actually scanning everything to make sure it's running fine. Now, this scan itself should only take 3 minutes on a compatible system that will run P3D absolutely fine. So the clock has started. Now, if it takes 4 minutes or more to complete this scan, I would probably say your CPU is not up to the job. My recommendation for a CPU, let's see what they say. Let's see what they say. They say a octa-core is recommended at 3.7 gigahertz or more. For example, an Intel Core i7 or i9. That's probably the base minimum specs I would recommend. I would recommend a 4.0 gigahertz CPU actually. The faster the gigahertz, you know, the higher this number, the better the quicker, sorry, the more efficiently it will complete its tasks. And, you know, flight simulation has so many calculations to get through that you really want it to be done quickly rather than slowly. So I would say having cores, a lot of cores, is more beneficial to having minimal cores, but also having a fast CPU is much more beneficial than having a slow CPU. I mean, you could say that for any game, but in flight simulation, it is more so 100% the case. So it's now completed. It didn't find any problems, and it did it within under 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes, in fact. So I know my CPU is up to the job. As I say, the base speed of my CPU is 4.2 gigahertz. I would recommend, if you can get that either boosted or running at your base speed, that you have a good CPU for flight simulation. What else do they recommend here? They recommend memory, 16 gig DDR4, correct, running at 2666 megahertz. I mean, that is okay memory, and that is more, actually 16 gig is enough to run P3D, you know, even with a couple of add-ons. But at the end of the day, you can never have enough memory. I would just max out whatever memory your motherboard will support. Mine is 128 gig. One day I will install 128 gig. For now, I have 32 gig installed, and I'm only using one nodule as well. So this is a 32 gig stick a one nodule. My speed is running at 3,467. I would recommend 3,000 or more, because at the end of the day, the quicker your memory, the faster things load. Even on an SSD, things will load a lot faster than a HDD. I truly recommend using a SSD or an M.2 drive over a HDD drive. I also recommend more than 60 gig. I mean, this is what your installation is going to need. I would recommend you having a C drive with at least 2 gig of space on it. Because at the end of the day, there are certain files that need to be with the sim, and there is a lot of landscape that you may get that needs to be with the sim. So the bigger C hard drive you can get, the better. I do not recommend getting like a 250 gig C drive and then or partitioning that off to another one with P3D. You're just confusing things with permissions and making it more complicated for installations. Some installations look in the default location, which is on the C drive, and you'll come across problems in the future if you don't install it on the C drive. Anyway, we'll get all that into at the end of the in the next video. Your graphics card. Your graphics card now is very, very important. It is actually going to really run a chunk of the sim. So you can have a look at your GPU memory here, dedicated. The second figure here, 11 gig is how much memory comes with your card. I've got the 1080 Ti. I have 11 gig of memory with it. I recommend anything 10 plus. I don't recommend 8. You're going to be running quite a lot in this sim. A 30 series is great if you can afford the 3090. You're laughing. A 2080 Ti is even better than a 1080 Ti. A 1080 Ti is really I would probably say a good card to get, probably the base minimum. I probably wouldn't get anything less than a 1080 Ti. Definitely not one that has 8 gig. I would recommend 10 gig as a minimum, but it has to support DirectX 12, otherwise this ain't gonna work. So whatever you get, make sure it has DirectX 12. And if it's a 30 series card, it's going to have the RTX, or if it's 20 series, it'll have the RTX, which will also enhance your sim over having a GTX. But whatever you do, you got to make sure that you have the administrative rights for the installation, and that you are the ability to run these services on your Windows 10. And I really recommend your monitor to be 1080p. You don't need a 4K monitor with P3D. In fact, it is actually more of a pain to install 4K into the sim. I have a 4K monitor, which I actually run at 2K, just because it is easier for my sim, to my graphics card, to run. It's actually more painful in terms of making sure the brightness is correct to have a 4K monitor. So 1080p, and you're actually going to save yourself performance for your hardware. So I recommend 1080p. So that's basically it. And now it's time to have a look at the installation now of the sim. So first things first, it's very important to make sure that your PC that you're about to download and install onto is actually running tip-top. There is absolutely no point in having a Windows 10 installation that is defective and then trying to install software on there and then getting problems and not knowing where that problem is. You'll probably most likely just blame the sim, where in actual fact it was your PC all along. So I really recommend clicking the link down below, going through those steps. I basically teach you how to get rid of the indexing feature on your PC to completely eliminate that process from running whilst you're trying to sim, which will take performance away. I teach you how to completely debloat Windows 10 and remove all the unnecessary programs and processes from running. Services that you'll never need. There's a lot that I have stopped here that I'm just not going to use, and all of these services that you see stopped could be getting in the way of your your flight sim and taking performance away really from your flight sim. And I mean, the last thing you want to be doing is on a final ready to land, and then your PC suddenly blurps up, "Hey, we need to restart because there's an update, mate," and you're like, "No!" So making sure that certain features are disabled or turned off. I actually have got a Windows sort of update killer that when I start my PC, there's a couple of things that are triggered here. There's something here for the memory to clear off. So basically, when my PC starts, you'll see that I've got 574 cached bit of memory here, and when this is actually running, it empties that cache out and keeps my memory from crashing and keeps my memory running clean. Another thing I do as well is I completely turn the Windows Update system off. I have a little bat file here that runs when Windows starts up that disables Windows updates. So I decide when my Windows will update, because more often than not there is actually, like, Windows can update frequently, a lot, and with each update you're changing the environment of your PC for which the sim will run, and if that environment isn't going to work with P3D will have problems running efficiently. At the end of the day, on a system like mine, you should be able to actually get 60 FPS running a PMDG plane in Heathrow in bad weather. There should be no problem. So if you're not able to get that, then there's a problem with the PC somewhere. Something's happening. If you remove all your problems from your PC, all you're left with is performance, and you kind of minimize or limit what can go wrong. Don't forget this whole flight sim. I mean, it's a very flexible flight simulator. You can do, like it says here, you can do underwater simulation, and you could actually do space simulation. Like, I've taken the space shuttle and I've actually gone to the moon in P3D. There's actually a stream. If you have a look at my P3D videos, there's a live stream I did where I went to the moon and back again and landed the shuttle. There's so much you can do with this sim. And when you come to the store here, when you click on the store, you're going to be confronted by all these licenses, and you're going to be going, "Whoa, hang on a second, what's going on, mate? I'm not spending $2,500 on a license." And what do you mean a license? Am I not going to get to keep this flight sim? Am I renting it? And actually, you are licensing out the sim to own yourself. Obviously a license can be taken away from you at any time, but it is yours to keep. You're not kind of like renting it through a platform, like the Game Pass, where if you have it through the Game Pass, they could actually take it off the store and you'd have to go buy that personally. But if they decided to, they could actually limit your access because it's all done through a portal of the internet. And this sim actually installs onto your hard drive. It installs the entire world onto your hard drive. So if it's on your hard drive, it ain't getting taken away from you, unless, of course, they revoke your license. But it's yours. Once it's yours, and you put it on your PC and it's there. If the internet goes down, you can still run your sim. And the only one you need to really worry about is the academic license here. It's $60, which is about 45 quid. The professional license, the professional plus license, and these developer ones, the only difference is you have a little bit more options for training scenarios. It has all the abilities the academic license does of the professional license for what you're going to use it. So don't go spending $200 on a professional license, or don't go be persuaded by your mates to get the hacked version, which is a professional plus license. You can always tell when somebody's been hacking this, because a 14-year-old will have gotten a professional plus license version, and you're like, I don't think you spent nearly $3,000, mate. You know what I mean? On that. So just get the academic license, own it. Okay, add it to the cart here. If you want to click details, it tells you all about the differences between the license, but this one is absolutely fine. It's the one you want, and when you get it into your download section, all you have to do is download the zip file. I would recommend putting it somewhere like in a folder So have it on your desktop and download it straight in there, and then you've got it. It's there. It's done. You don't have to worry about it then. But if you happen to get the individual components, I would recommend zipping those files up as soon as you've downloaded the individual components, which you can download through Google. You don't have to have a download manager. In fact, it makes it more complicated to have a download manager, because if you get the zip file and you download it through Google, if it's corrupted, it won't unzip correctly. If it doesn't zip correctly, there is no corruption in that file, so you're safe. I also recommend getting the SDK kit as well. There's going to be times when you actually might need to use that, so get the SDK kit, get the version that's in your download section, and download it to this folder. In the next video, we're actually going to go through the process of installation. But the best thing you can do right now is to make sure that your system is ready for P3D version 5 by making sure that you've set everything up correctly. So anyway, now that you've downloaded it, let's get into installing it. So thank you for watching this video. Don't forget, if you're watching my channel, if you're a subscriber to my channel, I'm giving away €50 to spend in Sim Market, so you can get some add-ons. And all you have to do is be a subscriber to my channel, leave a comment down below, and I will choose a lucky winner at the end of the month. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.